So we had 3 days to organize a showcase, basically.
And we couldn't find a club anywhere that would take us.
Nobody would take us because we were unknown. We had no fans. We invited, our family, our friends.
All my high school friends.
That front row in the documentary, that front row when you see at that show, that's my sister, 2 of my cousins, and like a couple of buddies from high school. You can see it.
He showed up. And we were like, this is it. Like, this is our chance. And we played our hearts out. We gave it everything we had. It was like this sort of desperate, like, last chance. Like, is this going to work for us? And somehow this scrappy little band that had almost nothing going on
stole the show.
Stole the show and got signed instead of the other big band that had everything behind them. Because we wanted it so badly.
Welcome back to Spin Magazine's Lip Service. I'm with Canada's finest, Simple Plan. Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having us.
How's it going?
So good. We're excited to be here, and it's a great day, and like our documentary just came out. So
it's a big day for you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, we're going to get into a lot, your history, obviously the documentary, the new record. We were just joking about my terrible Canadian accent. I was like out and about. But I mean, that's like a saying that people say there a lot. There's all these like slang terms.
You've got the accent down.
Yeah, it's more like the English-speaking Canadian people always have like an oat. It's like a boat, like so out in a boat. It's like it's it's a weird one. But we come from Montreal, where most people speak French, and we all grew up French-speaking.
We speak a bit of Fringlish.
Yeah,
we mix it too.
So it's a bit different.
So we don't get the
whole
A
different thing.
and all the typical Canadian things that like the A and the boot. It doesn't happen in Montreal.
Well, it's also interesting because in the documentary, someone came up to it. There was a fan. I think you were getting poutine, which was very Canadian. And they're like, I didn't even know you were French Canadian. Like I thought you were American. And I was like, really? Like the band is obviously from Canada, but
clearly look at our faces.
And just for the record, like I feel like I don't know anyone. Like there's no Canadians that I know that are not great and nice people. I mean, I know one guy that's a hockey player that maybe he's not
so
that
much.
nice. But, most Canadians that I know, I have a lot of Canadian friends. They're always great. I don't know, you ever hear this? I'm sure you've heard that. Like, Canadians are the nicest people.
We tend to apologize a lot.
Right.
It's a thing.
Very sorry.
And it's very useful when you travel because everywhere you go, you say, where are you from? And Canada, Canada, we love Canada. You get it? So it's like it opens all the doors.
And there's also that debate. There's so many bands that are big in Canada that I talk about this a lot with my friends that just didn't make in America. The Tea Party. I don't know if you remember Glass Tiger.
Even Hip for a long time.
The Tragically Hip, you know them?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, they were selling out arenas in Canada, and was very hard for them to do anything anywhere else.
But there's bands like this is maybe a little before you talk about Glass Tiger.
Yeah, sure.
I love Glass Tiger. Songs.
Yeah. It's like weird because it's so big there, right? Because you guys have if you get played on the radio, I think you get. Is there some kind of they have to play?
There's quotas. There's quotas. So you automatically get a slot that the radio has to play Canadian music. So if you're a Canadian band, you have that advantage on that.
Exactly.
So, which is cool because it keeps really the Canadian music business alive. You know what I mean? And there's so many artists that probably would have just been swallowed up by more popular American artists, and we have a great Canadian music scene because we have that opportunity. So
it's incredible. Well, when you watch this film, obviously the film came out literally a day ago.
Yep.
So tonight we're doing a Q&A. Thankfully, I'm moderating the film. I'm excited to spend the whole day with it. We just did a performance, so I'm super excited for everyone to check it out. And 3 amazing songs. So stick around to the end of the show. You'll hear some great stuff. But take me back to the beginning. Does it feel like 25 years this band has been together?
No,
I don't think it does.
that way.
Yeah.
It feels like yesterday in lots of ways. It's crazy how it's just goes by like this. But at the same time, when you start to contemplate how much we've done, where we've been, what we were able to accomplish with the band, you realize, man, it's been a lot. It's been intense. It's been a crazy ride. So much stuff happened.
And it's funny, you were talking about bands in Canada that they're stuck there, For us, we had to leave Montreal because in Montreal, the music scene is very francophone.
Right.
So we had to go to Toronto, make a record there, and sort of establish ourselves there. And quickly, we went to the U.S. and toured a lot. And we had a lot more fans, in New York, in Buffalo, in Jersey, before actually bringing that story back to Canada. So for us, it was the other way around.
Well, I have a big shout out to your parents because I feel like without your parents, and when you watch the film, there's a through line, right? It's all about, there's a lot of Perfect is about, the acceptance of doing music or not, and obviously there's a lot to talk about your family's history and the band. I feel like without your family and without your parents kind of supporting you, and it's a hard conversation, we spoke a little bit that I played drums with Courtney Love forever, and my dad never thought I had a job. So he'd say to me, "When are you going to get a job, kid?" I said, "I have a job, Dad. I play drums." He's like, "Tell me when you get a real job."
Yeah, I feel the same way. My dad was exactly the same.
Yeah, and then towards the end, sadly, I lost my dad about a year and a half ago, but he got to see me play at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was so thankful.
Amazing.
It's probably the highlight of my life. He came to see me play, and I was like, "I got a job now, Dad." And he's like, "I could see it." So I'm sure your parents are incredibly proud. When we watch this film, they have to feel incredibly proud.
Yeah, we all have very loving parents. We came from great families, but I have to say, like, my family and Chuck's family really played a big role in supporting the band. We rehearsed every weekend. I mean, multiple times a week throughout our childhood at Chuck's parents' house in the basement. Chuck and I made our first album together when we were 14 years old. We recorded in my parents' basement. My dad was our first driver. He took his RV on the first tour we did as Simple Plan and was like, "I'm gonna come with you guys." We're like, "Are you serious?" And like, took us out there. Was our first bus driver basically. And there's literally a shrine of me at my house. All my plaques are there, posters. I have to like tell them to tone it down. But we're really lucky to have parents that are very supportive. And of course, now watching this stuff, they're so proud of us. All of our parents.
Yeah,
are
we had
so
a
proud.
screening in Montreal with our friends and families, and our parents were there, and just to be able to show them the movie, and it's just and for them to see the whole journey and to kind of relive it. And it's funny, my parents and your parents were talking, and they were, and I overheard them. It's like, doesn't it feel like it was like yesterday?
Yeah.
It's crazy. How is that happening? How are we like this age? And so it was very emotional actually to be able to be there with them and to watch that journey, because this is our lives, but it's also their lives.
Definitely.
So it was
Because
really
when you
cool.
bring that drum set home, like I did, Chuck, your father was like, "This is definitely a phase."
Yeah, that's definitely what I mean. I had to lobby them and please beg them for weeks and weeks. Can I please get a drum? And finally, they gave in and they bought me this used drum set. Like it was so.
But your
beat
dad
up.
says it in the documentary. He's like, "It's not gonna last."
Oh no, he
It's
thought
never
it
gonna
was going to
last.
be like a month or 2 months, which honestly that made sense, right? Like you try something, and then it doesn't stick. But like he said in the movie, it was a big mistake because as soon as we got the drums, even though it was this beat up drums with broken cymbals and it was pieced together like 3 different kits, it didn't matter. That right away we started playing, and we were not very good, so I couldn't really learn other bands' songs. So instead of trying to do covers, we just said, "Oh, we're gonna write our own stuff." So this way we can decide what we actually play.
Yeah.
We can make it simple enough that we can play it. And that's where the whole thing started.
And in the film, he mentions, along with the drum set comes the friends, right?
That's right.
One guy shows up with orange hair or whatever, and he's
Yeah,
like,
that was him.
Right. And then he's like, "I'm not sure this is a good idea." But ultimately, when you form a band at 13, you grow so much. Because your band started by your school teacher actually said, you guys should like star in this talent contest in school, right? Talk to me about those early days and when you first started playing together, even back to when you were 13.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing that like our French teacher at school was like, "You guys should be in a band," and I had a bit. My dad's a guitar player, well, not professionally, but liked to play guitar. Always wanted to be a rock star. It never happened. So I played a bit of piano. I played some guitar, and Chuck was like wanting to play the drums. So we're like, "Hey, let's start this thing," and it was surprising how we immediately just like felt like we're people in a band now. We're band people. You know what I
That
mean?
became the whole identity.
Yeah.
Like that's all we talked about. That's all we like every weekends became like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're jamming. We're rehearsing. Well, it wasn't really rehearsing. It was more like we're trying to jam. That was really what we were doing, and that became our whole lives. And still like to this day, I don't know why this guy had this intuition, but he looked at us and like, "You guys should be in a band together," and
But
that shaped our whole lives.
I was going to say, the first band, Reset, was more metal, right? It was
Totally.
definitely based on metal versus, because you were watching like skateboard videos and snowboard videos. And I think, it's funny because when you watch the film, I didn't know that Montreal was like a mecca of punk rock, and
It was.
MXPX and all
Absolutely.
these bands were coming through there.
They were crushing out there. That was the crazy thing. And even afterwards, we've spoken to a lot of those bands, as peers now, and they told us how, like, back in the day, they would tour, in America, they would tour anywhere else, and then they would know that once they hit Quebec, they would make so much more money, and they would plan, like, "So what are you going to buy with the money you're going to make in Montreal and Quebec?" Like, that's how it was. So for us, we thought that was the way it was everywhere. So we thought that like Pennywise and Lagwagon and Bad Religion would sell out 3,000 people everywhere. But it turns out that wasn't the case at the time. But it really made us feel like we're rubbing shoulders with these people, where we got to open up for a lot of those bands, because our first band, we had our record label was kind of the promoter in the area. So we'd like open up for all those bands. And I think that gave us this impression like we're part of the club. We're not some little band from Montreal. We're hanging with the guys from California. So
yeah, and it was crazy. We were doing that, like these kind of shows. We were 15 years old. Crazy. I remember like we would show up with our equipment. Our parents had to drive us. Yeah. Literally, like we had to get our drums out of my dad's car and your dad's car. We would show up, and the bouncers would look at us like, who is? Why are they here? And I don't know. We're playing. We're the first band, and
did you need fake IDs? Because you can't do that in America. I mean, you're not.
They were all ages shows.
All ages shows, like
ages.
punk rock shows. So they were all ages.
Okay.
So that was okay. But I remember like they didn't really take us seriously. But then we started playing. And like the crowd would start crowd surfing and would start stage diving. Oh my God, they were panicking. And you actually see in the doc, like the reaction was insane. And we were 15, 16, so it was so exciting. Like we got to taste it so quickly. Like, oh, this is what it's like to be in a band that can have some success. And we started to believe like this could be like we could go to the next level with this. And it got really exciting,
By the way, you guys are huge coffee aficionados, right?
Yeah, we love coffee.
Yeah. Oh, this is good.
Oh,
this
yeah?
is good.
Is it?
It's next door to here.
We all have really
nice.
Well, Chuck doesn't drink coffee, but the three of us have nice coffee machines at home. We're pretty adamant about it. And that's like when you're on the road, you got to find things that you find comfort in. And like one of the things that we do is try to find a cool coffee shop when you wake up. You've been on a bus or you've been somewhere where you're far away from home for a while, and having that routine for me, that comfort of like a nice cortado or something, makes me feel better.
But when you're younger, you're like, I'm going to be in this wild rock band, and then I'll go get coffee every morning. Like,
you can't do that anymore. You got to be good.
It's a calm vibe at the coffee shop.
Our 20s were pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, talk about a little bit reset. I think at a certain point I think you're about 18 years old at that point. You're in the band for 4 years, and the band starts to grow apart. There's this pivotal moment in the film where obviously you're talking about Chuck, and unfortunately he hears you, and there's still like a wound that maybe it's resolved, maybe it's not. It's been many years. I mean, talk to me about that moment. What happened? I'm sure it was incredibly painful. I heard you talk about it in the film. So at this point, do you feel like it's been resolved? And talk to me about what happened.
I think it's it's clear to me now, especially, but like, Chuck's personality and my personality are very different, you know what I mean? And I think at a young age when those differences were coming up, I felt like, I can't get along with this guy. It's just not, we're not the same here. We have the same goal, but we're too different as people. And Chuck is he's very involved in the management side, loves the business side of music, and it gets a little obsessive, gets a little controlling. And at the time, I saw that as like, I can't be around that. It's like too much. And so we ended up, he ended up getting booted from the band, which it's so funny, not funny, but I think it was a great thing to happen because it had to happen then. And that's the reason why it didn't happen 5 years later when we're signed to Atlantic Records and we're selling a bunch of records and things are going great, because we already made that breakup, and that breakup made me realize, I think made him realize too, that like we need to nurture that relationship. And for me especially, I was like, I need to accept him for who he is, because there's a part of being in a band that I don't really want. It's not my expertise. I don't want to obsess about this stuff and go to bed and think about who I'm going to call and what the next thing and what the next move is. I'm focused on music. I focus on the art of it and the performance. And it's good for me to have someone like him around to do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that breakup early on is now the reason why I don't think we're ever going to happen to break up ever again, because we've seen that line, we've been there, and now we know how precious it is and how to sort of compromise and be a little more mature about it.
And some of the best bands in the world have that dynamic. I mean, we're just talking about the Oasis show this weekend.
Oh, geez.
One of the greatest bands in the world. Those guys, for many years, I actually heard that they were still friendly, and it was all like a PR stunt. I'm not sure, but I used to talk about it on the show because I know people that knew them. They're like, actually, Noel is going through the back door at Liam's. They're actually friends.
That's funny.
And I would talk about it, and then I was like, I predicted 3. And,
oh my God.
But that dynamic is what makes bands great. Yeah. Aerosmith, the Stones, Oasis. So obviously, it must have been incredibly painful. Talk about it. You're standing outside the door, and you hear them talking about you.
Yeah, I mean, it was, music and being in a band was our whole life. And so to have it ripped away was really, it was life-changing. It was devastating. Honestly, Like to the point when I came home, my dad like found me like a therapist to go talk to, which back then was not something that you would do like that. I mean, you're talking like almost 30 years ago. Yeah. But I was devastated. I was wrecked. And, you know, but like Pierre said, we learned so much from it. And I think that for a while, I didn't want to play music anymore. I was like, okay, that's it. We're done. You know, like I've tried, it didn't work out. But then Jeff gave me a call and said like, hey, because we were from the same high school. We literally all grew up together. We all like,
which is crazy.
Yeah, like we all met when we were 13, 14 years old. And Jeff was playing music around us, but he was not really into punk rock the way that we were. It was into more like U2 and Def Leppard and all and that kind of scene and Pearl Jam. And so I actually played with Reset. And it was like, yeah, you know, it's not for me.
No, it wasn't that. Actually, my parents were like, you can't be in a band. You know, like my parents were very, they wanted me to have like the normal pathway, go to college, be serious, you know. So
although you did get formal training.
I did get, and that's the thing about my mom, you know, she bought me my first guitar, and my dad was very, very strict. So my mom was sort of like the voice of reason within the family. She was like, listen, just go to school to please your dad, practice your ass off. We're going to make sure that you get lessons and all that stuff. And she found a music school that was basically, you know, sponsored by the government. It was really, you know, a great high level school. I went to that school, but I was missing being in a band. And when I heard about, you know, the breakup, I was like, it's such a shame, you know, like Chuck is so driven. He's a very powerful drummer. And I was sort of jealous of the success that Reset had. I really was. Like, I thought it was incredible that these guys had tasted being on stage, you know, at such a high level. So I was like, I want it too. And that's how, you know, I reached out to Chuck. And at first it was really the two of us sort of imagining the path forward, but we auditioned so many people. It didn't work out. It was really, really hard finding the right chemistry. And I say it in a documentary, but I truly believe that Chuck was never going to be in a band without Pierre.
And you can tell 100%.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I love the fact that someone says we got a friend.
We tried though.
Oh, we tried.
Someone said we got this friend Sebastian. We'd love for him to try out, but he has terrible style or something.
Oh yeah, I wasn't cool. I still struggle with being cool.
No, look at you now. You're the best looking guy in the band.
I was.
What was so bad about your style? You had Oakley's.
It wasn't
I was just
bad at
younger.
all.
You have to understand.
I was
that's
younger.
the thing. We were 18, maybe 19
At that
when we
point,
started
you're
talking,
probably 19, yeah.
and he was 2.5 years
Yeah.
younger.
Right.
So at that
I mean, I
age,
still
now it
am,
doesn't
but-
matter. Right, you're still the same
Look at you
age.
now, Sebastian.
But it doesn't matter. But at that age, it did. It was like, we can't do this. You know, it's like when you have a little brother and he's two years younger. It's like we don't hang out.
So you know
It
your
just-
little brother, yeah.
But
I-
he showed
yeah.
up and he kicked ass. And it was like, well,
I still had to convince you. It took a really long time. You were
know-
always coming back to dude, he doesn't really look the part. And I'm like, and we were sort of jamming with another guitar player that really had the punk rock California look.
Yeah.
And Chuck was like, well, I'm like, dude, he's the one. You know, he's
But
our
the
guy.
other guy had the look.
The other guy
But
had
he,
the look.
but he lived far away. I live in the same neighborhood as
It was
as
not
Chuck.
for
I was
the-
right there. Like, this guy's right there. He shows up to practice. as soon as we
Proximity.
call him.
Proximity was a huge
location,
factor.
location.
I won.
It's also interesting if you look at all the different hairstyles over the years. You're glad you probably documented this, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
If you have 20 years of footage, everyone has like a different hairstyle amongst the years. But
But me.
exactly. And then our mutual friend Mark McGrath, in a way, brought you back together. Mark he was on the documentary. He's been on the show a bunch. He's a friend, and he actually said in the documentary, he's like, it's one thing having a hit. It's another thing staying relevant for that many years. So you go to a Sugar Ray concert, you guys get reacquainted after not speaking for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're
so
like, you know what, let's bury the hatchet.
It's 1998, 99, so they're at the height of their popularity, I would
Yeah.
say. And I don't know, it wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but they had a lot of big songs, and I don't think it was necessarily like.
Well, back then we used to go to all the shows because we were in Montreal. We knew all the promoters. They were all buddies of ours. So we just walk in and the security guard's like, yeah, you guys can come in. You know?
and then,
so we'd go
and
see
then
shows.
I go there, he goes there, complete accident. We run into each other, and we already have the three guys in the band, right? It's like we got something pretty good, but we're missing the key part, the singer. And we keep talking, and I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, Cher, he should be in the band. And I'm like, I see him, and it's been 2 years. We haven't talked. We actually, like, it's full on, I would call it like
Clean
war.
break.
Like, we did not like each other.
Oh, it's
but
like a breakup.
Yeah. It's like we haven't talked. But
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time we bury the hatchet. But in the back of my mind, I was like, what if we bury the hatchet and we convince him to be the singer? That could solve all the problems.
Yeah.
And then that led to
Opportunity.
like we went for dinner together and we kind of talked, and And
He
to be
wined
honest,
and dined me.
I did.
He got
and-
me
Was
drunk.
it poutine? What was it?
No.
And I lied a little
I
bit.
actually went to a nice
Lobster
Italian movie.
poutine.
I think we went to Buona Notte.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
went
went
to
to
a
a really
fancy
nice.
place.
He wanted to
Oh,
impress me.
good
He's like,
spot.
I've got some interest from some record labels. Total bullshit.
It wasn't true. Oh yeah, we have this Hollywood movie soundtrack. Yeah, you don't have a singer, bro. Like, how is that possible? But I think that Pierre was
I did
ready.
not know that part.
Pierre was ready to. I think maybe because Reset was sort of, it was
fizzling,
hitting a ceiling.
Yeah, it was kind of fizzling out because we didn't have, someone like Chuck in the band to kind of push it that way. We had, it's like this is the way it was. So
I was talking to Chuck because a lot of drummers, even myself, early on, I became like the manager of the band. In a way, you were posing as the manager.
Right.
You used to call people and say, "I'm the manager," even though.
Yeah, we did that. Like once Pierre came into the band, which was really risky because the Reset still, even though it was fizzling out, like you guys had Warped Tour going on, you had a lot of big stuff, like it was, and we were going to a band that had nothing, like literally starting from scratch. But I think to what you're saying, you have to find your role.
Definitely.
In the band. And I knew for me that I wasn't the most talented drummer and like the best musician out there, but I knew that I could but I wanted to be in a band so badly that I was like, I had to find a lane for myself. I had to find something I could bring to the table. And for me, it was like, okay, well, I can sort of shape the vision. I can kind of help to figure out what we should do as a band. And that became sort of my role, and ever since then,
And you get in the studio, you record this demo, and there's this thing called like the yellow pages of rock and roll, which I don't know what that is, by the way. Is that something that like?
No, it existed. That was Joe Sib from 22 Jacks, who's originally from the Adolescents, right? Is that what's it?
He was in Wax, and he founded like Side One Demi. Anyway, he was a legend, like punk rock
and
legend.
we opened up our first band. We opened up for them on a tour with 10 Foot Pole, and he I think recommended that book a long time. He's like, the Yellow Pages of Rock has all it's basically a list of all record labels, A&R people, agents, entertainment lawyers, all that kind of stuff. So we bought it.
And I said, I'm going to get this, and I'm going to harass every single person in there, and I'm going to pretend I'm the manager. Because if I call and say, hey, I'm the drummer in this band, nobody's going to take me seriously. But if I call and I say, hey, I'm Chuck Como, and I'm the manager for this band in Montreal, they're amazing, all of a sudden you have a bit of credibility, right? You're not just a drummer. So I did that. We cold call everyone. We were just trying to get past the assistant, just try to get to the person.
Were you getting any bites, or was it all just rejection letters?
Well, that's the funny thing. We got a lot of rejection letters, but there's one guy and that actually opened up the package because we would FedEx the demo the next day. If they picked up the phone, we would FedEx to them.
Spent a fortune on postage.
Oh my God!
Oh, yeah.
We all worked on multiple jobs. We had to take a loan from Sebastian, who loaned money to the band.
That was one of my friends, actually.
Sebastian's
one of my friends.
Sebastian's friends like, I've got $2,000 for you. It's like,
he worked at Zellers, and he's like, I don't need it right now. I'll lend it to you guys.
I need
It was
40,000 stamps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So what happened
crazy.
is that we paid all that money to be able to FedEx instead of using the post office, because when you get something, especially back in those days, a FedEx package was like very, very important.
Right.
Look more serious.
Yeah, so we spent like $2,500 on just FedExing all these packages with like a photo shoot that we did and the demos. And
So Andy Karp, who was an A&R at like Atlantic Records, he signed Kid Rock, and he signed like legit like Matchbox 20 and all these bands. And he opened up the package. I called him up because I would follow up the next day. Hey, did you get my package? And and then he said, yes, actually, I got through. He picked up. I did, and I listened to it, and I really like it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, what do I do now?
I didn't expect this. This never happened before. Where's the script?
The script. I didn't write it. This
Tell
all I
him
have.
I'm not the manager now.
He's like, so when you guys playing New York? I have no idea. We're gonna be, and we actually rented a car. We went to New York, and he was like, I like you guys. I'm not sure it's ready yet, but let's keep in touch. And eventually, a year and a half later, after many, many other things happened, he signed the band.
It's an amazing story because you start passing out like lyric sheets to all your friends, which is a crazy story. Because you pass out like lyric sheets to every song, or is it one song? Or
it was basically it was more like a demo that we were passing to our friends. We were making sure that the people around us knew the songs, and then we had our friends there. It was really literally just our friends. There were like a few
And
fans
friends
here
of
and
friends
there.
and cousins.
Hold on. That
Because
front row
yes.
in the documentary, that front row when you see at that show, that's my sister. sister, 2 of my cousins, and like a couple of buddies from high school. You can see it.
And just to explain, because that guy, Andy Carr, the guy who eventually signed us, flew to Montreal to see another band.
Right.
And we found out he was coming in, so we're like, we need to play for him. So we had 3 days to organize a showcase, basically.
And we couldn't find a club anywhere that would take us.
Nobody would take us because we were an unknown.
And it was also last minute.
And also because we had no fans. So like literally we were just starting out. So we invited our family, our friends.
All my high school friends.
And he
Free
showed
beer.
up. He showed up. And we were like, this is it. Like this is our chance. And we played our hearts out. We gave it everything we had. It was like this sort of desperate, like last chance. Like, is this gonna work for us? And you see the footage in the documentary. We actually filmed that show, and that's the night that I think he saw it. He was in town to see this other band that had a major label behind them. They had like a management, everything. They had an agent, and somehow this scrappy little band that had almost nothing going on ended up like kind of winning that little,
stole the show.
Stole the show and got signed instead of the other big band that had everything behind them.
Because even before that,
I think it came from the heart because we wanted it so badly.
I was gonna say his philosophy was, if something is happening in Montreal, we can reproduce that everywhere else. What he didn't know is that we didn't have anything going on in Montreal.
But I think
we sort of fabricated it.
What I think he found endearing though was the fact that this other band he was going to go see, he was like, there was like a cocktail party with some appetizers and like record label people there from Canada trying to sign him to the U.S. and it was like a big old schmoozing. And I think then he saw that show and then raced over across town to this little crappy club that we're playing in, and I think it felt a lot more organic because it was just like us, and it was like this desire to be who we wanted to be, and I think we just played with a little more passion and a little less like check out how cool we are, more like just, man, we want this so bad. And I think he felt it.
Desperation.
Because even before that, Sony Canada was interested in the band. And then obviously, like a lot of labels, somebody leaves, they get fired.
Yeah.
Someone new comes in. She's like, I don't think I'm going to sign this band.
This close.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty much done. All we had to do was sign like the dotted line. And then
what was crazy, though, is that even when that offer started to show up, we were kind of bummed. We were like, okay, I guess we're going to sign with Sony Canada. We really want to sign to a major in the U.S., but I guess they're interested, so I guess we'll do this. And then it turns around, and then they're like, no, we don't want to sign you. We're like, what? Like I was settling, you know what I mean?
Because we didn't want to be stuck in Canada only, like Glass Tiger, like you mentioned, and The Hip and all these bands that were massive here. But for us, it was like we wanted beyond just Canada. We wanted to be big everywhere, and we knew that the way to do that was to get signed in the U.S. So actually, in hindsight, when you think about it, it's the best thing that ever happened to us.
Totally.
I ended up Jason Flom, who is a friend of the show too.
Yeah, we love him.
Ended up signing the band. Funny enough, I was literally with his son yesterday having breakfast. We were talking about you. He was showing me pictures of him as like a 5-year-old with the band.
Yeah.
So crazy full circle.
Yeah.
You get to record your first record, and talk to me about that process of working with Arnold and the fact that you guys were doing like 70 takes on each song. And when you look back on it, do you think the process could have been different on your debut album?
I think so.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Arnold was a beautiful musician, and he still is, a great
and a great producer.
Yeah, he had
Incredible.
made some amazing records with OLP, and part of the reason we wanted to work with him is that we really loved those records, right? But Arnold really thought that we were very green, which we were, but we still knew what we wanted to do. We had a vision for, we wanted to be pop punk, and he had more of a garagey, sort of a hipsterish kind of idea for us, so there was sort of a vision clash, from the start. But Arnold would basically like come in the morning, get us to start recording, and leave. Next morning he would come back and be like, nah, I don't like this, re-record it. And that would go on for days on end. So it was really sort of like, I don't know, the motivation kind of like, it was hard on us. It was really, really challenging. But we kept going.
But
it
it also gave us like a common person to be like, not an enemy because we love Arnold and he's great. But there was definitely
us against him.
Yeah, a bit of an us against him vibe. But I think also he became a little microscopic. And if your question was, could it have been done differently? I think we didn't have to record it that many times. I think there was some point where he's like, I'm like, okay, where do I cut the I do anything? It's like, I do anything. He's like, no, not like that. It's more like this. I do anything. I'm like, that's the same thing. He's like, no, it's like a millisecond before. And I'm like, this is what? So,
By the way, God bless, because that record went on to sell 3 million copies.
but that's the thing. And that's the beauty of it, is that all that tension and that push and pull, maybe that's what made it, maybe he was right. You know what I mean? And he kept pushing me to sing a certain way. I would be at the studio and sing like all day. The next day he'd come back. He's like, I think you should sing it again. And I'm like, what? But maybe he was right, because obviously that record sold millions of copies, and still to this day, I mean, I'm just a kid that the whole thing in 2020, and like it keeps going. So he was obviously a genius.
And obviously with that record comes, I was going to say, with that record comes a song that changed your lives. Perfect.
Yeah.
If you stay tuned to the show, we'll hear the band playing it later in the show. It's an incredible version. So talk to me about that visceral reaction that fans have to that show. And really, again, going back to your parents, thankfully your parents had something to do with the band, because the song really is about that relationship and the fact that they were like, hey, I guess if you want to join a rock band at 13 and not go to school, but ultimately it's a hard thing you struggle with that as a parent, I would imagine.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's where the whole genesis of the song came from. I mean, we were trying to explain to our parents, and more specifically to my dad, I was trying to explain to him, like, this is what I want to do. School is going to still be there, but music is right now, because if we don't go for it right now, we'll never know, and we might look back at 30 and regret, like, we should have tried. And so I think that he kind of understood, but it was hard. I was going to law school. I was like, he was
just like him.
My dad's a lawyer, so this was like, okay, this makes sense, right? And then you kind of throw a curveball, like, no, I'm gonna stop that, drop out, and I'm gonna play with my scrappy friends, and we're gonna make a band. We're gonna go around the world, and we're gonna sell millions of records and play in Australia and Japan. And in his mind, there was no reference point. There was nobody had done that from Quebec, from Montreal, So it was really challenging, and we had all these late night discussions, and we go back and forth, and would get pretty intense because I was very passionate. And then one night I just kind of got outside and just was so mad, and I remember just thinking, like, I'm sorry I can't be your perfect son. And I was like, and I told Pierre the next day, like, hey, we should write a song, like, sorry I can't be your perfect son. And he said, no son.
Let's cut the son. Because I was like, perfect son. And I was like, that sounds really weird. And I'm like, let's just say the perfect.
And then it was like, yeah, it shouldn't be, I'm sorry I can't be perfect. And it was like, wow, that seems powerful. But the funny thing about this song is, I don't think we realized what we had. We knew it was good. We knew it was there was something there, but we put it 12th on the CD. Like, last track, it was different.
We almost hit it. It was like, this is too personal. It's a ballad.
It's ballad.
Yeah,
we
wanted to play fast and loud.
Yeah,
that was the complete opposite.
And then we put out the record, and we start with, I'm just a kid, and I'd do anything and all that. But then we start to have people come up to the shows, and sometimes we would play that song, and we start to see, like, people in the front row, like, tears in their eyes, crying, but like tears are coming out, and they're freaking out when we play that song. And we look at each other like, what's going on? We've never had that kind of reaction ever with any of our bands, where a song would have that kind of emotional impact on someone. And then we started getting these letters like, hey, this is my life. We thought it was so specific, so personal to our story, that it would not really connect. And in fact, we learned that it was the exact opposite. The more real and personal you get with your music, the more it can be like, people hear it and they can tell it's genuine, and it's heartfelt, and it's honest. It's
and
real.
Sometimes the more vulnerable, and it's hard to be that vulnerable, especially with that kind of song. But it's so interesting in the evolution of songs, because I'm Just a Kid kind of flopped. And who would have thought? That song seems so obvious. I mean, it's the biggest streaming song you have. I don't know how many streams. I haven't looked at it lately, probably 500 million or something, right? But like, you hear that song, like, that song's a hit. But ultimately, in the beginning, it didn't really happen that way for you with that song.
Yeah, it worked for us. In Canada, started blowing up, and Japan. And everywhere else, it was kind of like, it was a disappointment.
Well, because we went to modern rock, and what, I'm just a kid.
It's more of a pop-leaning song than a modern rock thing.
So that did not really pan out at all for us, and it's stiff. And to the credit of the label, they didn't give up on us. And Jason Flom and all that said, like, I'm not giving up until this band goes platinum. I don't care what it takes.
And you know why? It's because because he had obviously the album and played it to his kids, and his daughter and his son, both loved the band. And he was like, if my kids love this band, it's going to be a hit. Like, I know that, like, I've seen the reaction from young people, and it's going to happen, right? So I think that was really cool.
Yeah, so we went on tour. We did the whole Sugar Ray tour, and everywhere we would play, every single show. Back then, it was like you had sound scans, so like the next week after the show, you would see this bump where people would
200
go
copies
and, like,
sold in
find
Peoria,
the
Illinois.
and they looked at that and they said, like, There's something when you put this band somewhere, when they get up on stage, when they meet the fans, because we would go to the merch table, we would go and sign and take photos. When we did that, it connected. So then we did Warped Tour, like we did the smallest stage you could do.
Parking lots.
Yeah, parking lots on the Pop Disaster Tour with Blink and Green Day, and we would walk around with a Discman and headphones, and we would write our set time and give it to people and say, hey, listen to this, and put it on their ears. And it's like we're playing at 3:30 at the Kevin Says stage or at the Ernie Ball stage or whatever it was, and people would, most bands would play. There was like 50 people there. We would get on stage. It was like 500, 1,000 people would show up, and words started to come out, and it was that, like, we literally, like, we willed it into existence,
And Pierre, it's such a weird fact. Your dad was like driving you around in Winnebago. What was that like? Because that had to be weird.
It was a little weird, but it was great. It's funny because when, at that point, I'd already been on a couple of tours across Canada with my previous band, and we were getting ready to rent a van and to go on a trailer, and it's going to be, we're driving ourselves, and it's like, touring in a van, we've done it a couple times. It's pretty rough. And at the dinner table at one point, my dad's like, well, I could drive, because my dad had a nice motorhome. He's like, I could drive you guys in the motorhome. And I'm like, Dad, the tour's in 2 weeks, and I'm getting all the rentals lined up. Like, if you say this, I'd love for you to do that, but like, you're going to have to follow through.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, you're not going to go on tour with them and drive them. My dad's like, you know what? Maybe I will. And so he came out and did it. And I think it was probably one of the coolest experiences for him, because I could only imagine, now that I'm a dad and I've got 2 daughters, if you get to go on this adventure with your kids and see it happen. It was like that. While we were there, the album got released. We started getting some fans. It was starting to like really started really just a glimpse of what was happening. But yeah, he had a great time. It was hard because we were asking him, like, you need to get some rest. You need to like go to sleep.
He wanted to see
want
the
to
show.
sleep.
He wanted to see. He would film the shows and like hang out and stuff. And I'm like, Dad, you got to drive all night. He's like, it's fine. It's like a 3.5 week tour. We get back home at the end of it, and my mom's we show up after 3.5 weeks. My mom's like, oh my God, what happened to you? Like, he looked so tired. And so he was like pulling double duty. He was shooting the show while I'm watching us play, and then driving at night. So it was pretty wild.
I was so happy he was driving us. I don't know if I ever told you, but I was dreading having to drive, because at some point it was going to be my turn to drive. We were renting vans.
Yeah.
I'm so happy he drove us.
And then the next tour, we rented a small RV and a trailer. We did it ourselves, but it was fun with my dad. It was really, really cool.
We're actually going out to cover the Warped Tour coming up, and those early Warped shows for you were a bit weird, right? They're throwing bottles of God knows what at you. Rough, right?
Yeah, it was very difficult, and I think that's it's an interesting thing, because when we started doing Warped Tour, the first Warped Tour we did, we were relatively unknown. The second Warped Tour that we did, now we're starting to blow up. So what happens when you start to blow up is that you get a lot of love, but then you get the hate.
Right.
Because we're that band that has that 1 foot in pop world and 1 foot in the Warped Tour world, and it's important for us to keep that foot in the Warped Tour world. But people that think we're too light, we're too poppy, they get really vocal about it. So yeah, that Warped Tour was tough but what got us through it, I think, is because we also had thousands of people that wanted to watch us play. But then you have, I don't know, a couple of hundred that really are flipping you off and throwing stuff at you, and like.
I brought Chuck to the hospital in Detroit. He had to get stitches.
He got a bottle thrown into his
face.
Yeah, I
It
got
was
a
that
bottle
bad,
right
yeah.
here. It was Dr. Wall at Detroit Receiving. I remember, and that was 2002.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dr.
And
Wall.
I kept
Yeah.
playing, and I didn't realize it, because with all the adrenaline, I kept playing, and you turn around and your face went wide. It's like,
Dude, you had so much blood.
I got to be honest, if someone
So
threw a bottle in
hardcore.
my head,
Rock.
I think I would like just go off stage.
Well,
with
I
someone.
thought about it very often. Like, I got mad. Like, there's a point, like, you've seen a documentary, like, Sebastian comes up to me and talks to me. I was probably telling him, I'm going to jump in. Like, I can't do this anymore, you know? It was very violent when you start to think about it, like people throwing stuff at you when you're playing music. And really, the simple solution would have been like, there's another band 30 feet away.
Go watch them.
Go watch
Yeah,
them.
go
Why
away.
are you sticking here?
But we would go and do like signings at our merch tent every day. And whenever I remember walking through the Warped Tour, I didn't like doing it alone, because I thought like I might get jumped. You know what I mean? It was that crazy.
And it comes with a bit of a PTSD even today.
Yeah.
When people come up to you, they're like, hey, you're in Simple Plan.
And I'm like,
and I never know
what are you gonna do?
Nowadays it's 99.9% amazing.
Yeah.
But back then it was a
50-50.
It was
Yeah.
like a coin toss. either be like, oh my god, I love you guys, or like, you guys fucking
They're
suck.
gonna hug you or punch you.
And it was so you didn't know. So it was always a bit of like, oh, what's coming now?
But that part, I think going through that together as a band really got us tighter as a group of young guys. But also it made us so much more resilient, and it gave us this chip on our shoulder, which we still carry today. And like, I think we just always feel like we have something to prove. And that, I think I'm kind of grateful for it, because that's why we work so hard. That's why we're doing maybe more than a lot of the bands out there. It's because we feel like we just got something to prove, and we're the underdogs, and that spirit has never left us.
And I think it made us a better live band too, because when you're on Warped Tour and you know, like, okay, we have to prove that we belong here.
Yeah.
Like, we have to prove that we can play with in this club, you know. And it made us want to like jump more and like just
We sped up the song.
go faster.
Yeah.
You know, like every song was faster because we wanted to prove our point, like we belong here.
And then the following year, what the coolest thing is, what happens if you stick around long enough. This is a lesson for people out there. If you stick around long enough and you withstand all those hurdles, by the next year we were playing Warped Tour again, and then you have bands like Rancid, who we're now buddies with, we're friends with, and they're on stage with Simple Plan shirts.
Amazing.
You know what I mean? So
That was vindication.
We're like, you know what? If you punk in the crowd, if you think that we're not cool enough, well, check out. You know, we got Lars over
Matt
here
Freeman,
wearing a
yeah.
Simple Plan shirt. It's like, you know what? I got all the credibility that I need from that. you
And
know?
then if you fast forward even more, like to now, like we did the show, the Warped Tour, and you know, like the whole Warped Tour is back in DC,
Yeah.
and we're one of like the core bands that is now like sort of identified with Warped Tour,
Yeah.
and everybody's so stoked, and they're like, oh, you guys are Warped Tour, and it's like, well, at the time not so much, but I
Yeah.
guess now we just stuck to it, and yeah we are.
Because there was this pivotal moment in the film. The punk rock community is tricky, right? It's all about the credibility. So you have these band Rancid and these bands. It's all like, fuck you, punk rock, right? But ultimately, you guys had to make a decision. Avril Lavigne tour, punk rock. And at the end of the day, you have to kind of decide: do we want the huge commercial success while still maintaining the credibility? It's a tricky thing, right? Was that a hard decision to make?
It was, but I think that we looked at that whole credibility thing and that whole sort of elitist, like, what do you call it, like gatekeeping, and we thought it was BS. We're like, we're not going to go with, like, we are who we are. Our record's made. You know our music. If I go and play with Avril Lavigne or I go with someone else, that shouldn't affect whether you like the music or not. And that was, I guess, bold for us at the time. But yeah, we didn't want to subscribe to that sort of mentality. And we said, you know what? If that means that we're going to lose some people, whether it's support or we're going to lose some fans, then they don't belong. Then we don't need them. You know what I mean? And it was kind of ballsy, but we did that. That's the way it was back in the day. And you probably know this. Like, if you were a pop band, you were a pop band. If you're a rock band, you're a rock band. Then rock radio, like, they won't play each other. You know what I mean?
But
So-
we tried to be that band that was
both.
able to
Yeah.
do both,
Yeah.
had a foot in both worlds,
and it upset a lot of people.
Yeah, it definitely pissed off a lot of people, but at the same time, like, it was amazing because, like, we got, like, our whole goal from even the reset days, the early days, was to have our music heard. It was so frustrating when you were in a band and like, oh, I can't find your CD, or I never heard of these guys, like, because you're not on the label or whatever. And it was always like, we write songs in our basement. We want people to hear them.
Yeah.
So to do the Avril tour, people got to hear our music. Then, you know, to be on the Mary Kate and Ashley movie, people became like our fans. Like, and still to this day, we meet people and they're like, this is how I discovered you, like the Scooby-Doo soundtrack or whatever. And it's like, and I'm like your most hardcore fans. So it's like, why would you be snobby and not do something like that when you can, you know, kind of recruit new people to discover your music? And that's the whole point.
By the
People
way,
to
you guys
hear
are part of like the cultural zeitgeist of the 2000s. So all those movies, Freaky Friday, Mary Kate One, like, it's crazy when you think about it. It must have been a good thing for you to do those movies, but I'm sure, again, you might have struggled with, it's Lindsay Lohan, it's Hilary Duff, it's the Olsen twins. Like, they're not exactly punk rock, right? So was it a struggle, or do you look back on those years now and think that was the right decision because it just expanded our audience?
I think it absolutely was the right decision.
Yeah.
But I think at the time it was a little difficult. But once we did the Avril tour and like we knew we were getting played on like Z100 and Kiss FM, all those things, we were like, okay,
And MTV.
that's it. We're all in. We're on MTV. And we'll take whatever opportunity that we can to get in front of more people. And at the time, we had a great team with Atlantic in LA that was placing. We had like 100 plus placements in movies and TV shows, and we're like, the more the merrier. Let's just get more visibility out there.
And I think we knew that we could back it up live.
Yeah.
Like we knew that we could get on stage because we had toured with a punk rock band for 7 years before Simple Plan. You know, we knew that we could go up and be a great live band and kind of and show people that we're not what you think you are. But the one thing that was frustrating that people didn't know about the 6-7 years of paying our dues with the old band before. They thought we were just this manufactured band. People would say that all the time, like, oh, you guys, like, it's put together and all that. And I was like, no, you have no idea.
It's not, yeah.
Did you struggle a little bit with working with someone like Bob Rock, was known as like a metal, did the Black Album. He went on to produce Offspring, but did you get a little bit of backlash working with him initially on that second record?
Not at all. If anything, it was more of a reaction to the first record. Okay. We wanted to sound heavier. We wanted the guitars to sound good, the drums bigger. And we felt like the first record just didn't have that sonic quality that we were looking for.
It didn't capture us the way that we sounded live and the way we sounded in our basement when we were practicing. So that's why we wanted to make something that was more arena rock, for no pun intended. And we were scared to work with him, though.
Yeah, that's different for sure.
We thought he was going to change everything because we saw the Black Album and the whole documentary about that, and we were like, oh my God, he's coming in, he's going to change every arrangement. And it was the coolest thing. He just said, like, I don't change stuff just because I need to change stuff. I change stuff if I feel like I need to. And honestly, you guys, like, the songs are great. Let's just make them sound awesome.
And again, great job because it sold another.
Yeah, that was that's the thing. You have one record, we sold, close to 3 million for the first one, and then we're like, what's going to happen with the next one? And it went so well with Bob, and like, yeah, we're so blessed that it was a huge success with Welcome to My Life, Untitled, Shut Up. But making a record with Bob Rock was still to this day my favorite experience. He's such a cool guy, and he made us feel, and at the time I think we were all on a high because people were playing pop punk. The pop punk phase had gone longer than people thought. Green Day was still big. Blink-182 was still crushing it. We knew that all we had to do was make a good Simple Plan record, and it was going to go well. And yeah, he made you feel good. He was the opposite of Arnold, because Arnold would everything was like chopped up, and he was just like, do this one take, and you would do 2 takes, and he's like, I think we got it. And you're like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, we got it. And we're like, great. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I even had a moment where I was like playing a lick and jump,
God,
and I'm like, I could do it better. He's like, okay, go. So I would start, stop.
No, hold on. It's because he did it. And then Bob's like, I think we got it. And Jeff's like, no, I could do it better. He's like, no, I think we got it. Like,
I was just
out
of the Arnold school, right? Yeah, exactly. So I was just like, I could do this better, but he never allowed me
over and over and over and
then
over
he's like, first take was the best.
And then you listen back.
And he's right.
Yeah,
it was 100% there,
Yeah.
But it was sort of a different school of thinking. And when you hear that record in a emo night, in a club, wherever, it's timeless. It sounds so good,
And it has some breathing room. It moves. It's got some power. Where
it's not perfect. But it sounds really good.
We love the first record, but I think that one is a lot more. It's just over polished in my opinion. But again, it did so well.
Yeah.
The
third record was more difficult. Did you ever think at any point we might break up? We might not make it through. Music had changed.
Yeah.
A lot of guitars were coming out of music.
Yeah.
And it was a tough time for the band. Did you second guess the status of the band at that point?
We second guessed everything. I think we were worried that there wasn't any room for a band like Simple Plan on the charts. Like we were up there all the time, and now suddenly it's Timbaland and it's Justin Timberlake and it's Nelly Furtado and it's like all these beats and stuff, and then you have 2 big records and you're like, oh, you have this moment that most bands have after success, that to be like, well, we have to do something completely different.
Yeah, we have to reinvent ourselves.
Right. And it seems so silly when you think back, but we were going through that, and I think because of the music landscape that was changing so much, we felt we had to really change, and that meant it took us so long to make that record. We wrote for like a year and a half, and then we recorded and re-recorded. I think the record cost over $1 million to make, which is crazy.
Back in the day when you would spend that to make a record.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it was wild, and the funny thing is that it came out, and like we put the song "When I'm Gone" out first, and it starts with like a beat, and it's like, it's just way not Simple Plan. And then people were like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But then years later, it became a fan favorite. It became like all of our hardcore fans from a long time ago. What's your favorite record? And it's like the third album. And it's like, really? We look different. I had like the Justin Bieber
emo helmet on and the scarves in summer.
And like scarves and stuff. And like, and the songs are dark and they're kind of more experimental and stuff. But now people, that's their favorite record. So.
Incredible. The documentary is incredible. There's so much to talk about. We have to do a part 2. Before we go, and you played some songs, so stay tuned for those songs. We always do these really fun top 5 lists.
Sure.
And so I'm going to ask you guys first if you all have a perfect album, Simple Plan. So we can go around the table and talk about what a perfect album is for you all. So should we start with Sebastian?
So what do you
start
mean?
to finish, like you put on a record.
A Simple Plan or any album?
Any album, like back when you didn't take the record off the turntable, right?
Man.
Do
Any
you
album.
have a perfect album?
Do you have a perfect album?
Okay,
And
cool.
what is your perfect
All right.
album?
Honestly, the first album that I got that I thought this album was perfect is Smash by Offspring.
What a
when I
record.
put that on, it's the first CD I ever bought. I, learned to play guitar alongside it, and just from top to bottom, every single song is absolutely phenomenal. So that was my first album that was like, this is perfect.
Amazing. Pierre?
I'm struggling between 2 right now. There's one that's a very obvious big record. I'm going to shout out just because I have to. But like back in 1994 when Green Day came out with Dookie, like that was like, it kind of changed the whole game. But later on, there's another record that I really felt was changed my perspective of a certain genre, and it's Thrice, The Artist in the Ambulance. And because I never really was a fan of like hardcore stuff with like screaming and different things, and I put that record on, I was like, this is pretty good. It's a pretty good record. And then after a while I listened to it again and I'm like, this is really good. And over time, I lived in Vancouver while we were making our second album, and I just listened to it so much, and it made me enjoy screaming hardcore music to now where I like it on a daily basis, you know what I mean?
Amazing.
And so many great songs, and it just sounds so good, and it's so visceral and amazing. So that's my top one.
Amazing. Jeff?
For me, Clarity by Jimmy Eat World. It's just
Great record.
Yeah, I love
Underrated
that
band in a
record.
way, right? Underrated? A little
So
bit?
underrated.
Yeah.
I think Bleed American is probably a more polished, better made record. But Clarity, like the vibe that it brings you like places. It's such a good record.
I
So
agree
chill.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys
And
picked
Chuck?
some good
We got
choices.
some good
Oh,
ones.
yeah,
I know.
guess
The pressure's
we're
on.
going.
Chuck.
You're going.
I'm calling it.
There's an obvious one that I know you guys know, and I think I have to be honest.
We didn't
and
want to
say
steal it from
Say
you.
it.
Animal of the State, Blink-182.
Yeah, that is a perfect record.
I mean, that is the perfect record.
We didn't even talk about your relationship with Mark Hoppus, but that's for part 2 when we do this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he gave me that record like a month before it came out. Like we were hanging out in Montreal, and he gave me the record. I went home. I put it on, and from the moment it started playing, I'm like, this is gonna change everything. This is gonna be. This is like it informed what we wanted to do with Simple Plan, but more than that, it influenced every single garage or basement bands in the whole world. And
Do you still have that advanced copy?
I think I do. Yeah,
That's
I
that's
do.
special. I mean, you got the record like a month and a half before
Yeah.
it came out, and I mean, it's one of the biggest pop punk records of all time.
Yeah, and I just knew that it was gonna be, and to this day, there's not a skip song. There's nothing. But the other one that was kind of tossing around was No Effects, Punk and Drublic.
So
which
good.
is
Another
like,
great band.
yeah, amazing.
Is
you
that
know?
94 as well?
It
Smash,
is.
No
90
Effects, and Dookie all the same year.
and
By the way-
Bad Religion, Recipe for
There
Hate,
it is.
Early
which was my
90s.
second, my third choice of
Right.
like perfect record.
There's one year like 94 where
Yeah.
every record that came out was like a banger. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
amazing.
Woodstock
What a great
94
time.
that
Yeah.
year as well.
Crazy.
Everything.
And let's talk about your top 5 Canadian bands of all time, because you guys are Canadian, right? So
Yeah.
shout out to the local Canadian bands, right?
You know what? For me, I don't know. That band is not very well known. The Doughboys. They're a Montreal
Doughboys.
band. They had a song called Shine. Yeah, such
So
a
good.
kick-ass song. And I'm going to tell you something, too. Like, I was never a hip fan, but when I saw that documentary, full respect. What a great band. They had such amazing songs. And I don't know, out of rebellion, I just didn't listen to that
Yeah.
band. You just couldn't.
I never got into them.
Yeah, but it's such a great band.
At the 100th Meridian, where the Great Plains begin. So good.
Anybody for the Tea Party? I don't know. No, I mean, I'm just throwing out some random
I got
Canadian
it.
bands now.
Brian Adams, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I mean, one of the
Friend
best.
of the show.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a legend. He's so incredible. Some of the best songs in the history of music. I love
Yeah.
it.
Like, one of us has to say Our Lady Peace.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Underrated
Peace.
band.
Oh my
So
God,
good.
so
Yeah.
underrated. That you know, Happiness is a Fish. You can't. Oh, it's just called Happiness is a Fish.
Clumsy as well. Oh
yeah,
my God.
Clumsy.
Clumsy.
Two great
What an
records.
album.
Yeah.
Propagandy.
Prada.
Right.
And
Wow.
Jam.
I don't know them.
That shaped my teenage years.
Yeah.
Those two records, How to Clean Everything and Let's Talk More Rock.
So good.
Unbelievable.
A
The
26-minute
songs,
album.
The
So good.
lyrics, it made me interested in like Noam Chomsky and all these like crazy and interesting ideas, that were like about politics and I don't know. And then they're back. They just came back this year, and it still rocks. And
The Canadians are going to be chiming into this TikTok for sure.
And Gob is back as well. Love Gob.
Oh, I don't know.
Great band.
Avril Lavigne.
Oh yeah, shout out to
So
Avril.
many.
Yeah.
well,
So
it was
many.
banned. It was banned. So
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And last but not least, your top 5 pop punk albums of all time. I mean, you mentioned
Yeah,
a
we
couple
mentioned-
along the
yeah,
way, but
yeah.
we had to pick a top 5.
Well, Enema of the State's
Enema of the
on
State's
there,
got to
for
be
sure.
in there. Dookie's got to be in there.
And why?
American Idiot or Dookie?
I'd say Dookie.
Dookie, man.
Really?
Yeah, I
Alright,
think
fair,
so.
fair. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Smash, obviously. Yeah.
Well, if
That's
you're
almost
going
like
like more pop
pop
punk, I'd
punk,
pick
yeah.
Americana.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
They're
Right.
A little
it's
bit
more alternative. Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're saying.
It's more punk. The other one's
Yeah.
punk. This one's more pop punk.
Who else we go for best pop punk records?
There's some great Sum 41 records. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Shout
I
out to
would
Canada.
say,
Yeah.
I would say, hey, got to give props to Good Charlotte. I mean,
Yeah.
they made some.
Lifestyle's
Yeah.
a good album.
Like,
Lifestyle's
yeah,
a good
that's a
Lifestyle's
great.
You have a
Virgin
number
Things.
1 pop punk album of all time?
Enema of the State.
Enema,
Blink-182.
I mean-
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
And then number 2, probably Take Off Your Pants right after,
Yeah,
so good.
Those two Blink records were unreal.
By the way, we didn't talk about the new album that's dropping with the documentary on Friday. There's a new song. There's a tour, 25th anniversary of Bowling for. I mean, there's so much. Like,
Yeah,
but by
there's
the way,
so
we are
much.
doing a Q&A right after
Yeah,
this. So
yeah,
I
right.
guess there'll be a
There's more to
sort of
talk
parts here,
about,
right?
but it's
Yeah.
a big year. We've been in the band for 25 years, so we're trying to celebrate that. So we have the soundtrack to the movie, we have the tour. So
A
yeah,
new song, a tour, yeah.
It's
By the way,
exciting.
sometimes I'm happy when this ends. I could talk to you guys for hours, so there'll be a part 2 coming up.
Love
Awesome.
it.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Hey, Dad, look at me. Think back and talk to me. Did I grow up according to plan? Do you think I'm wasting my time doing things I want to do? But it hurts when you disapprove all along. And now I try hard to make it. I just wanna make you proud. I'm never gonna be good enough for you. Can't pretend that I'm alright. And you can't change me, 'cause we lost it all. Nothing lasts forever. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. Now it's just too late, and we can't go back. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. I try not to think about the pain I feel inside. Did you know you used to be my hero? And all the days you spent with me, and now it seems so far away, and it feels like you don't care anymore. And now I try hard to make it. I just wanna make you proud. I'm never gonna be good enough for you. I can't stand another fight. And nothing's alright, 'cause we lost it all. Nothing lasts forever. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. Now it's just too late, and we can't go back.
back. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. Nothing's gonna change the things that you said, and nothing's gonna make this right again. Please don't turn your back. I can't believe it's hard just to talk to you, but you don't understand. Because we lost it all, nothing lasts forever. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. Now it's just too late, and we can't go back. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. 'Cause we lost it all, nothing lasts forever. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. Now it's just too late, and we can't go back. I'm sorry I can't be perfect. I woke up, it was 7. I waited till 11 just to figure out that no one would call. I think I've got a lot of friends, but I don't hear from them. What's another night all alone? When you're spending every day on your own. And here it goes, I'm just a kid, and life is a nightmare. I'm just a kid, I know that it's not fair. Nobody cares, 'cause I'm alone, and the world is having more fun than me tonight. And maybe when the night is dead, I'll crawl into my bed. I'm staring at these four walls again, and I'll try to think about the last time I had a good time. Everyone's got somewhere to go, and they're gonna leave me here on my own. And here it goes, I'm just a kid, and life is a nightmare. I'm just a kid, I know that it's not fair. Nobody cares, 'cause I'm alone, and the world is having more fun than me. So what the fuck is wrong with me? Don't fit in with anybody. How did this happen to me? Wide awake, I'm bored, and I can't fall asleep. And every night is the worst night ever. I'm just a kid, and life is a nightmare. I'm just a kid, I know that it's not fair. Nobody cares, 'cause I'm alone, and the world is. Nobody wants to be alone in the world. I'm just a kid, and life is a nightmare. I'm just a kid, I know that it's not fair. Nobody cares, 'cause I'm alone, and the world is. Nobody wants to be alone in the world. Nobody cares, I'm alone, and the world is having more fun than me tonight. I'm all alone tonight. Nobody cares tonight, 'cause I'm just a kid tonight. You ready? Yeah. All right, sir. Do you ever feel like breaking down? Do you ever feel out of place? Like somehow you just don't belong, and no one understands you? Do you ever want to run away? Do you lock yourself in your room with the radio on turn up so loud. No one hears you screaming. No, you don't know what it's like when nothing feels alright. You don't know what it's like to be like me. To be hurt, to feel lost, to be left out in the dark, to be kicked when you're down, to feel like you've been pushed around, to be on the edge of breaking down, and no one's there to save you. No, you don't know what it's like. Welcome to my life. Do you wanna be somebody else? Are you sick of feeling so left out? And are you desperate to find something more before your life is over? Are you stuck inside a world you hate? Are you sick of everyone around with the big fake smiles and stupid lies while deep inside you're bleeding? And no, you don't know what it's like when nothing feels alright. You don't know what it's like to be like me. To be hurt, to feel lost, to be left out in the dark, to be kicked when you're down, to feel like you've been pushed around, to be on the edge of breaking down, and no one's there to save you. No, you don't know what it's like. Welcome to my life. And no one ever lies straight to your face, and no one ever stabbed you in the back. But you might think I'm happy, but I'm not gonna be okay. Everybody always gave you what you wanted. You never had to work, it was always there. You don't know what it's like, what it's like to be hurt, to feel lost, to be left out in the dark, to be kicked when you're down, feel like you've been pushed around, to be on the edge of breaking down, and no one's there to save you. No, you don't know what it's like. What it's like to be hurt, to feel lost, to be left out in the dark, to be kicked when you're down, feel like you've been pushed around, to be on the edge of breaking down, and no one's there to save you. No, you don't know what it's like. Welcome to my life. Welcome to my life. Welcome to my life.